So come down
And we are live. So, you're okay, Tim. So, welcome to Raise the Game Live. And it's Ray here. Super excited we're doing this. This is the place to be to help your ADHD teen succeed with school, study, and on their screens. So we're absolutely live, and the whole purpose of this, and we're just getting ourselves sorted here on Ecamm, is to share some stories and what's happening here in Raise the Game. And I suppose this week I did have a conversation with 4 families, and there's some great learnings in all of this, because part of my work as an ADHD study coach and school motivational speaker is obviously I am working with neurodiverse teens and their families all the time. And there's patterns of the same types of issues and things that come up. And there's a lot of learning in all of this. And as I said at the outset, there was 4 families that I was talking to this week. And Tim, if you want to just move, it's probably best. This is absolutely live. Tim is the man. He helps me put all this together. An amazing camera guy, very creative. So thank you, Tim, for helping me make this happen. And one of the things of Tim working with me this year is to actually be able to do these live streams, to be able to share more content, because I know parents are really struggling. And not just parents of neurodiverse teens, because I work, on average, we go out to about, 8 to 10,000 students a year through the Raise the Game seminars, and then our coaching programs as well. This year, we're very excited because we're about to launch a new program for parents, and a whole new platform as well. And that's coming your way. So watch out for something called Navigate ADHD. But pretty much a lot of the students that I work with, certainly coach, have ADHD, and parents constantly, are talking to me, asking me questions, and really struggling with ADHD teenagers and students with dyslexia and dyspraxia and autism, and what we call there's neurotypical and neurodiverse. So no matter who you are as a parent, there's one thing you need to hear. And I'm going to share that in a little bit. But let's dive into the first student who I was talking to, her mom, the other day. This particular student, names are anonymous, of course. This girl is going into 6th year, she's 17, experienced a lot of bullying in, and hopefully my sound is okay. As I said, this is absolutely live. So this girl experienced a lot of bullying in 2nd and 3rd year. To the point where police had to get involved. It was very sinister. There was a lot of online stuff. And I come across this a good bit on my travels. And bullying can be, really, really, really disturbing. And obviously for any parent and obviously teenager on the receiving end of this. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, one girl, she was being bullied by 3 different groups in the same year group. And obviously that was horrific for her. Thank God she's on the other side of it now. I know the family, and that girl is doing amazing. She's now in Trinity College. She's doing so well. And flourishing, also working as well. So there is an end point. And the good news is for this student who came to me the other day, she's on the other side of that. The challenge is she didn't do TY. So obviously her 1st, 2nd, and 3rd year school experience was not positive. So her whole goal is to get through school as quick as possible. So she didn't do TY, and recently diagnosed with ADHD in the last 18 months. And obviously when you go for an ADHD diagnosis, you get a big report. And part of that report, they'll say, well, look, here's the accommodations you can get in school. Maybe there's medication you need to take. And the other big part usually is to do with executive function, things like working memory, planning, organizing, study skills. And that's the bit that I do with students. That's the bit that I coach students on. And The big challenge for this girl is, and she said herself, I don't know how to study, I don't know how to learn, I don't know how to apply myself. And she does want to do the leaving cert. She does want to get through these exams. She's particularly resilient. That was one of the things I noticed in our what we call breakthrough call. But she doesn't have a study problem. Here's the big thing. She does not have an issue with how to study, even though she does. So to me, there's always the problem, and then there's the real problem. And the real problem for this girl and her family, but particularly for her, is she has an emotional safety problem. This is the big thing. If she's not going into school on a daily basis, it's because she doesn't feel safe. And as she said herself, she's in class, she gets overwhelmed very quickly. And it can be noisy. And ADHD students can be very sensitive. And there's highly sensitive teens. And, for her, as soon as she gets anxious and overwhelmed, and I said it to her, she taps out. So she leaves the class. Typically, she leaves the school. And it's a challenge to get her in, and it's a challenge to keep her in school. And for me to coach her, it is preferable if she's in school. Not to say that I don't coach students who aren't attending school, but it's obviously preferable because if you're in class, if you're in school, at least you're being exposed to the content. It's a lot harder to get through a leaving and a junior cert if you're not in school. Now, the school environment is not for everyone. It's an institution. And the big challenge with school as well is, and I want to say this respectfully, a lot of teachers, they've got 30 students in one class to manage. They've 30 students in the next. They've another 30 students and in the next class. So they have a lot of students to manage with different needs. And a lot of teachers, they have very limited training when it comes to neurodiverse students. So, sometimes, and a big part of whether a student does or doesn't like a subject is to do with the teacher. And, this is a big challenge then and then the other thing is the way the leaving cert. I mean, the question is the leaving cert even fit for purpose now? Learning 6 subjects, and going through what some people would consider a memory test. Are we preparing our young people today for the world that we live in? This is a constant debate. It's the theme of my newsletter this week. And this brings me to actually, I'm going to skip through to the third student I was going to talk about this week. An amazing young lady, again, going into leaving cert. And, she actually said to me, I don't think the leaving cert is important as what it used to. Now, not everybody watching this is in Ireland. I get that, right? Over here, we have something called the leaving cert. In the UK, you have A levels or O levels. I think in the US, it's SAT. So it's the terminal exam at the end of secondary school. And what this young person said to me the other day, and we had a really interesting discussion. We clicked. Part of my breakthrough call with a student is to find out, do we click? Because I need to know I can get on with someone and that they're going to listen to me, but equally that I can coach them. So we're trying to establish, are they coachable? And what she said to me, I don't think the leaving cert is as important as it used to be. It doesn't hold the same amount of power. And you know what? She has a point. She really does have a point. And I think in this country, it's a personal point that we've made a big deal out of getting a degree. Clearly, some of the students going through 5th and 6th year are more suitable to different types of qualifications, the old techs and craftsmanship. And, I do believe that, at the age of 16, a young person should be able to navigate their way into a different form of education. And, what is shown to be true is that now we're living in this world of AI, that plumbers, carpenters, electricians, all these, all the trades, there's only going to be more demand for them. So anyway, it's a personal opinion that I do think that there should be a different route after the age of 16. And I meet 16, 17, 18-year-olds being forced through the leaving cert, teachers having to drag them through these courses. And you would ask, well, are we actually tailoring our education for the world that we're living. Anyway, that's another debate. But what I love about this student is she sees, she's calling it out. She's saying, I don't think it's as important as what it used to be. And then she said this. She said, I don't really care about the leaving cert. Now, what's really interesting about this young girl, that to me is all self-protection. Because one of the things in the course of our conversation that she did say is, I don't want to be an adult. She's turning 18 very soon. And she's struggling to cope with the expectation of being an 18-year-old. And we actually discussed this. We had a really interesting discussion. I said, why don't you want to be 18? Why don't you want to be an adult? She said, honestly, there's too much pressure today. There's a lot of expectations. And she's absolutely right. Obviously, over here, the Leaving Cert is very public. It's all about points. It's all about what you're doing next in your career. There's over 80,000 courses on offer as part of this CAO. And, and parents, because we've smaller families, invest a lot of time into their kids today. And in some cases, parents are playing out, their own kind of, I don't know what it is. They're playing, they're almost compensating for maybe some of the things they haven't succeeded with in their own life through their children. And I see this a lot. And again, maybe that's a bit controversial in what I'm saying, but a lot of young people today are feeling that pressure, not just externally from the points race, but also from the parents. And a lot of parents will say to me in a clarity call, I'm not putting pressure on them, but sometimes they kind of are, just by being involved in everything and not giving the young person the dignity and the ownership of making their own decisions. And with this girl's dad, when I asked him, why is she struggling to cope with being an adult, he actually said, to be honest, he says, I think I've done too much for her. I think, I've spoon-fed her too much. And I actually admired the fact that he was so frank and honest with me in that conversation. And it took a lot of courage to even say that. But I just thought it was interesting. And, one of the things that I do urge parents is, as early as possible, is to be able to step back. And when you can step back, you give them the space, and that way then they can step up. So diving into the rescue all the time sometimes is not the best action. So this young girl was very, very interesting. And another thing that she actually said in the course of our conversation, she said, I hate school so much. And again, I hear this a lot from young people. Now, look, it's school, right? It's secondary school. It doesn't have to be a bed of roses. But it's an institution. And a lot of young people just, when you look at it from their point of view, you have to wear a uniform, you have to be in at, 9 o'clock, you have to do Irish, and you're forced doing this different subjects. You have no choice in who your teachers are and who you sit beside and all that stuff. So a lot of them just want to get out the door, get out the gap as quick as possible. But one of the things that I noticed in this girl's vocabulary is that word hate. I hate school, I hate biology. And the world is kind of like a mirror, So if you hate something, you get that back more. So one of my goals for the coaching with her is, I suppose, to change her emotional state and to change how she thinks about things. Because like it or not, those terminal set of exams, they are a gateway to the next stage of your life. And what I always say to students, you want to come out the gate confident. You want to come out with options, with as many options as you can. And with the fact you've 1 year left in school, you can make that your best year. And that's a big theme of my seminars with students. You get a choice in all of this. And I know Viktor Frankl talks about that, his famous quote, no matter what I can't remember the quote now, I'll have to call it up, but you always have a choice in the circumstance. And then you start to change the game, right? And a big part of what I do with young people is I give them choices, and I'm that outside voice, not a teacher, not a mom, not a dad, to be able to say, hey, you've got a choice in this situation as to how you want this year to go. And That way, then the parents can start to step back a little bit. And this girl actually has lofty ambitions. To me, she's very suited to entrepreneurship. We were talking about things like forensic psychology. So she has lofty ambitions, but we just need to help her to get through this last year because it goes fast. School goes by fast. Childhood goes by fast as well. Before you blink and you miss it, and suddenly we're on the other side of it. I suspect this person, she also has dyslexia, so she struggles with learning stuff and obviously reading. Linguistically, she would no problem speaking, but it's obviously the reading and the writing. So self-esteem is a big issue. So the big thing I'm going to be working on with that young person is confidence, self-esteem, and to kind of reframe how she thinks about things. Which brings me to the third young man that I was talking to this week, and his mom. Amazing young lad, big into martial arts, and has been working for the summer as well. I encourage young people to get jobs as soon as possible, earning their own money, paying for their own stuff, old school stuff, back to basics. And this lad has only been recently diagnosed with ADHD. And when I asked him, I said, how did you feel about that? He said, it was refreshing. I thought, that's interesting. I said, what do you mean by refreshing? And he said, well, it means I'm not stupid. And this is the big thing for a lot of, he actually said, it's not my IQ. So for a lot of young people who have a diagnosis, whether that's ADHD or dyslexia or autism or whatever it is, but it has a big knock-on effect on the self-esteem and confidence because, they can feel very not good enough, not smart enough. There's a lot of self-criticism in all of this. And he explained it very well. He said one day he was sitting in an exam or an oral and he looked around and everybody seemed to be able to do it. Everyone seemed to be so focused. But he said, for me, I seem to be left behind. So he actually noticed it in the class from looking around that, hey, there's something that's just, I'm not getting here. I'm being left behind. And, in many ways, he knew himself, hey, something is a bit off here. And he explained it very elegantly to me. So now that he's got the diagnosis, what I can help him with and what the purpose of, my coaching and through this channel as well, is to give him the tools to be able to understand what the ADHD brain actually means, and that means you have an executive function delay, right? So organizing, planning, time management, self-awareness, self-motivation, being able to get down and do the work. And he acknowledged that himself. And his mom said to me, look, he works very hard, but he doesn't get the results. So the effort is not translating into results. And it can be quite demoralizing in school or doing a set of exams if you're putting in work, but you're not getting the bang for your buck. So that's what we'd be working with. But at the tail end of the session, what was really interesting, what I noticed about him, his big issue is not just, I don't know how to study. It's not ADHD. His big issue is actually social anxiety. So we'll be working on that. We'll be working on the confidence piece. And I notice this more and more with young people today, that social anxiety is a bigger deal. And I think a lot of this comes out of the phones, So instead of talking to people, now we can text. So we can get out of communicating face to face. And that's a skill, being able to talk, being able to listen, being able to engage, being able to read social cues, being able to build rapport. And I notice those skills are severely lacking with a lot of young people today. And, a big part of what I remember last year, one girl on my program, and she was in the Scouts, and we did a lot of work around actually talking. She was very shy. So, we did some work around how to, and one of the things I got her to do was actually ring the Chinese and put in an order. And then I got her to walk into a shop and ask for, whatever, being able to walk, because for her, she wasn't able to do something like order a Chinese meal for the family, or being able to go into a shop and buy something. She felt very anxious, especially in public situations. I had another student last year, and her goal on a Friday was, after school, was to go into the Stephen's Green shopping centre and just walk around, because she had a fear of public places and a fear of, again, lots of people in one place. So these are all skills that can be learned, and they're all interlinked. A big part of what I teach is not just how to study, but it's the confidence piece. It's to be able to take things on. And a big part of the challenge for young people today is very easy to hide behind this thing here, and to get opportunities to speak and learn and to do things. Like the amount of teachers that'll say to me, like, there's 4 or 5 people in my class, I can't ask them to speak because the parents have requested for me not to ask them to speak. So it's a challenge. And that's what, excuse me, that's what we'd be working on with that young lad, not just the study skills, but also the confidence piece as well. The last student that I was speaking to the other day, or his mom and dad, he was with me last year. So this lad is going 14 on to 15. Their big concern for him is actually not academic, it's peers. Being attracted to the wrong type of people and hanging out with the wrong crowd. And part of the benefit of what I do in my coaching program, there's a live stream component. Now, teenagers, I never ask them to turn on their camera. They never have to speak. So even though they're on a live stream, it's a bit like this. It's a bit like YouTube Live. It's a bit like TikTok Live. And they love it, right? They love it. And because it's anonymous. So, and I get them to type in, right? And this particular student, he hasn't been officially diagnosed with ADHD, but the mom suspects that they're getting an assessment coming up soon. But certainly for him, procrastination, putting things off, huge issue. Task initiation is one of the big telltale signs with ADHD. So this is why you have the arguments about homework and study, or starting the homework and study. They will spend 3 hours with you, fighting with you about doing your homework, than actually spending the 20 minutes or half an hour getting down and doing the homework. And one of the game changers last year we introduced is the family contract. Now, I'm not going into this here on this live stream, but this actually will be available in the new product we're releasing soon, No Homework Battles. And in that, we'll show you how to put together a family contract. So it's basically an agreement between the parents and the teenager, as to what the expectations and the privileges are. But a big part of the work with this boy is structure. It's all about, like, it's one thing showing up, on a live stream with me or doing a couple of coaching sessions, but we need structure in the home. Structure gives stability. And what is structure? It's getting up at a certain time. It's going to school at a certain time. It's coming home at a certain time. It's handing up your phone at a certain time. It's doing your homework at a certain time. It is, going training at a certain time if you're into sports. And it's about having very clear structure and also consequences and jobs. I love the ADHD parenting podcast. Mike McLeod and Ryan Wexelbrat. It's a great resource. And the last one I was listening to was about how every teenager needs a job. We're going to close this out soon. So a big part of what we're going to be working with that boy this year is systems and structure. That beats motivation. So a lot of parents will say to me, he's not that motivated. Well, you're never motivated. Motivating isn't something you just turn on. That's inspiration. It's all about creating the systems and the structure and the habits. And that's what I teach parents, how to, in the home environment, to create the structure that helps your teen to be able to get the work done. Because it's stressful. Otherwise, it's stressful for the parents and it's stressful for the students. The big thing out of all of this, every teenager wants the same thing. You know, they all want to know how to learn. They want to know how to study. They all want to be able to get on in life. They all want to do the best for themselves. So, you know, the basically, it's always the same. They always want the same type of stuff. But I suppose what we have to learn is, and what parents have to learn is that, I'm just looking for my last page. Here, there is a crescendo to this. You know, and I deal with hundreds of parents and teenagers, thousands of students. But for most young people, what they really want is someone to believe in them. And that starts at home. That starts with you. And the one thing that I want to remind every parent is you're doing the best you can. You know, you're doing a great job. The parents, I reminded the other day, I said, you're doing the very best you can with what you have. Now, what you can do as a parent, certainly of a neurodiverse teen, is to try and understand as much as you can around the condition, right? Because you can get very frustrated and you can start shouting at them because they don't have their homework done, they're not ready for school, or else maybe they do something silly at the kitchen table, or they blurt something out, or they argue with you about something. But the more you understand about the condition, and it is a neurodevelopmental condition, the more information you'll have, the more skills you'll have. And that's what I teach, is to help parents, and certainly this new Navigate program we're going to be launching is to help parents to be able to understand about the condition, and scripts, more scripts to be able to help you to communicate better. So one of the big things I always urge parents is to come from a place of curiosity. So, you know, I'm just after doing a module in my master's called Understanding Behavior is Communication. No matter what your teenager is doing, that behavior is to be curious about that behavior and try to understand what are they trying to communicate to me, because they won't tell you straight. They'll tell you one thing, but they're communicating another. And what I want to tell you as a parent is that you're doing your best, and well done. It's not easy raising teenagers today. It's a complex and difficult world. It's a roller coaster. And even that girl said to me the other day, one of the students, she said, you know, we were talking about roller coasters. She was on a roller coaster. I said, what was your highlight for the summer? She said, whatever theme park. And she said, going on the roller coaster. That is a great analogy for this journey we are on. They will come out the other side. You will come out the other side. And hopefully you will have a better relationship with them. So what I want you to do is type into the chat box, what is your biggest challenge this year with your teenager? And when I say this year, going into the new academic year soon, what's your biggest? Is it focus? Is it motivation? Is it organization? Is it anxiety? Is it arguments? Is it procrastination? Is it confidence? When you think of your teenager, what do you think is their or your biggest challenge with them? So if you like this video, click a like. If you want my coaching, go to RayseTheGame.com. Get ready for the NavigateADHD.com. It's coming soon. If you want me to come to your school, go to RayseTheGame.com. And that concludes the Raise the Game Live. Don't forget, guys, day by day we are raising the game.